They say the most dangerous enemy is the one you don't see coming, the one that disguises itself as a friend and patiently works its way into your inner circle before, one day, revealing its true nature. Enemies like this are very calculating and deadly. They can spend years, even decades, building business and diplomatic relationships with you to earn your trust and get you to drop your guard. Then, when you are the least aware, they strike that devastating fatal blow. That's exactly what the Chinese have been doing over the past decades, slowly and steadily building themselves up into the lives of almost every American and our allies, until the day they have gathered enough power to fire the first shots of World War III to capture world power for themselves. Look around you. Someone you know drives a Chinese vehicle, someone else uses a Chinese mobile phone or laptop, another person rides a Chinese bike, and another person uses Chinese computers and equipment at their workplace, while another uses the Chinese spy app, TikTok. Slowly but surely, China is working its way into all our lives. This is very troublesome. Why? The reason is simple. China is a communist dictatorship that seeks to extend its communist tentacles across every nook and cranny of the globe, and it views our liberal republican values as hated targets to be destroyed without pity. The Chinese leadership wants to control everyone on this planet exactly like how it controls its own people, with force and violence. Chinese citizens are under constant surveillance like that in North Korea. The government watches their every move, and there are no such things as freedom or human rights. Anyone who dares criticize their government will immediately be arrested and never heard from again. Yes, the joy of having your organs be removed while still alive. And guess what? You will be next if China manages to take over the world. But there's a way we can fight against the Red Dragon and defeat it, which I would love to share with you. In the meantime, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and feel free to share this video with other concerned citizens. To begin, we need to quickly rewind a bit. Back in the 20th century, China was a poor, closed-off agrarian society that was recovering from one failed communist policy to another. A new dictator, Deng Xiaoping, rose to power, and his goal was to turn China into a world superpower. The Chinese decided to pursue manufacturing and production because of their rapidly growing and hungry population at the time. Fortunately for China, it also has large oil deposits for it to sell. It then uses the profit to build industries and train workers who now break their backs every day to meet the demand that has been created for Chinese products. Now, everyone knows the story. Every corner of the world is littered with made-in-China junks that are synonymous with low prices and poor quality. The more China's economy grew, the more the Chinese government comes closer to fulfilling their goals of defeating the West and conquering the world. Soon the Chinese economy was competing with some of the world powers, and the government decided to toe the same line with their military. So they started to funnel billions and billions into building a formidable military that could contend with those of the established world leaders. The Chinese military began to slowly trample on its neighbors' territories in the late 1990s, beginning in the Vietnamese Eastern Sea with its ridiculous 9-dash line claim, which has no historical or legal basis whatsoever. This greatly upsets Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Brunei, and the Philippines, plus any nation that uses this vital sea for transport. In the 2000s, China made bold claims to the Japanese islands of Senkaku and now aims to steal Okinawa from Japan as well. Beginning in May 2020, China clashed with India along their border 3 separate times, resulting in the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers and 40 Chinese soldiers. Around that same time, China started building roads and homes on land belonging to Bhutan. Bhutan is a peaceful but small and poor nation, so it can't fight back against this aggressive bigger Chinese dragon. This gives the term building diplomacy a whole new meaning. As late as September 2023, China even made claims to Russian lands by drawing new maps which show Russian lands belonging to China. This made many Russians both angry and question the true intentions of China. China is now sending thousands of its large fishing trawlers to Africa, Pacific Islands, and Latin America to steal tons and tons of their fishes. Environmentalists predict that the Chinese practice of plundering all fishes, big and small, will deplete all sea life in these regions and the locals will have nothing left. Again, These countries are too small, poor, and weak to fight back against these illegal Chinese invasions. In short, China has territory disputes with all its neighbors, including distant ones. As a result, lots of these nations are being weakened and brought down to their knees by China. But the biggest hotspot will be Taiwan, as China wants to make this independent country part of its land. Many analysts believe that World War III may start here because a Chinese invasion will also drag Japan, South Korea, Australia, and America into the fight, triggering a devastating global conflict. But how is China able to do this within just 25 years from being a poor backward country? Well, with your money. Every time you buy one of their cheap products instead of an American one, you contribute to building up the Chinese military. Every made in China shoe sold is profit for Beijing to upgrade its air force. Every Chinese toy sold adds a buck to make another Chinese warship. Every Chinese tool that you buy gives China money to make more guns. And yes, all these Chinese weapons will be used to kill Americans and our allies in the upcoming war. To better understand how truly dangerous is this Chinese menace, click on the link below to enjoy Blood Money: Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans by Peter Schweizer for free on Audible. It is such an excellent source of information that I myself bought the physical book. But you can listen to it plus other great books for free on Audible for 30 days. I highly recommend it because it will totally change how you will look at China. China has undergone a remarkable transformation. Already, China has the second largest military with the second highest military spending. And it has the world's biggest navy, surpassing even the US Navy. This is very troubling news for the whole world and not just for China's neighbors. Because when this dark Chinese cloud descends, every country will drown in its poisonous water. The Chinese by nature have been brainwashed to the core by their cultural norms and government propaganda to take over and rule everywhere they go. Even when they are visitors or guests in foreign lands, they subdue and look down upon the local people. Recently, the Nigerian government closed down a Chinese supermarket in Nigeria that did not allow local black Nigerians from entering while allowing only Chinese customers to shop. In Kenya, local black Africans were not allowed to eat in a Chinese restaurant while Chinese clients can freely do so. And these are just some of many shameful examples. Could you imagine something this racist in our time? Another way that China secretly works to topple Western societies is by actively seeking to recruit the millions of Chinese immigrants and expatriates that live and work in Europe, America, Canada, and Australia. Some sources estimate there are more than 10 million Chinese people living and working in foreign countries who the Chinese government can use against their host countries. To the uninitiated, these expats may just be honest hard workers looking to make a better life for themselves and their families. But to well-grilled security and intelligence personnel, a lot of these people may be living double lives. Between 2015 and 2024, American intelligence authorities intercepted information and arrested at least 16 Chinese spies living and working in America as ordinary Americans. When you think about it, it's quite frightening that the normal-looking Chinese dude you see on your morning run or while you're walking your dog could be a traitor for China. These Chinese spies are of different standings and have various hierarchies and scopes of operation. Some, like Qing Wang, are highly educated and trained in specialized fields like electronics, engineering, or physics. High-ranking Chinese spies constantly steal sensitive American security information and tech intellectual property from American companies so their Chinese counterparts can make cheap replicas. As I have reported in one of my earlier videos, 1 in 5 North American companies reported that they have had their intellectual property stolen by China through spying and surveillance. Even big giants like Apple and Tesla fall victim. If China can get its spies inside Apple and Tesla, imagine what it can do to smaller startup firms outside of Silicon Valley. The FBI reports that America loses between $200 and $600 billion each year due to intellectual property theft. And of course, the main culprit is none other than China. The bigger picture of this is that China isn't just stealing innovation and secret technology, it's also stealing jobs from millions of hardworking Americans like you and me. Again, who would buy an American laptop for $1,000 if a cheap Chinese knockoff made from the stolen IP tech sells the same product for only $700? American companies lose sales and have to close down factories, laying off millions of American workers like you and me. Because of the successful heists and the little consequences that come with them, China is now testing the waters to see just how far it can go without facing serious backlash. The more Chinese spies infiltrate our society, the easier it will be for China to work from the inside when they finally decide to carry out their grand plan of toppling America to be master of the entire world. In summary, China is a very dangerous adversary that has clear ambitions to subjugate and rule the world. China is the enemy number one of not only America, but that of Taiwan, Japan, Australia, the Philippines, India, and the rest of the freedom-loving world. It respects no international law and does whatever it wants at the expense of others. And sadly, they are using the profits they have been enjoying from trade with the West to advance their goal of ruling the world. So how can we stop this growing threat and prevent China from enslaving us all? The solution is quite simple. Phase 1. Stop all trade with China. As we all know, China is what it is today because of its manufacturing industry and its huge trade surpluses with other countries. All the money China shovels into strengthening its military comes from here. The stronger the Chinese military gets, the bolder the government gets in carrying out disrespectful and provocative actions. A simple way to clip off the wings of this aggressive dragon will be to immediately stop all trade with China. In the last 10 years, the US has been responsible for at least $400 billion worth of trade with China every year. Immediately pulling out of these trades will lead to losses of around $270 billion for China every year. This will make a big dent in their arsenal and force the Chinese to focus on recouping their lost billions instead of arming themselves. When we add Japan, South Korea, Australia, India, Europe, and other allies into the equation, this trade embargo against China will have a tremendous impact. China will be brought down to its knees and return to the poor, weak third world country it used to be before it joined the WTO in 2001. If you're wondering where you come in, keep listening. The only people who can cut international trade between America and China are those in the government, the very people you voted for. If you put enough pressure on your representatives, they will have no choice but to do what is best for America. And this will greatly weaken China's chances of starting any wars against us and our ally. To replace cheap Chinese products, we will bring manufacturing plants back to America. After all, the Chinese learn most of what they know about technology and innovation from America. It's time for us to put this knowledge to use on American soil and create products that American people can use without arming our number one enemy that actively seeks to destroy us. Reopening factories in America will give back millions of jobs to Americans, and to keep the cost down, we can easily introduce automation. Lastly, whatever we can't produce, we simply will buy from friendly nations. Phase 2 will be to stop all American investments in China and mandate all American nationals, along with companies with full businesses or subsidiaries in China, to pull out immediately. This will also be for their safety, because Americans and other nationals in China have been arrested and detained on fake charges. If China says you are a spy, then you are a spy. Period. Since that's already going on, it's not hard to predict that as China will get more and more emboldened to target bigger fish like American business executives and government officials located in China and surrounding territories like Hong Kong and Macau. They already jailed 2 Canadian businessmen for 3 years on groundless charges. So what's preventing them from doing it again? Our government must mandate all American companies in China to withdraw their investments and return home. A stiff penalty will be enforced on any individual or business that flaunts this law. After this has been done, all intended future American investments in China must be stopped even before they are conceived. Phase 3 of the plan to stop China involves stopping all current and ongoing technology and information sharing programs with China. Since the Chinese like to boast about their prowess in the tech and IT space, it'll be interesting to see what they can achieve without American training and information sharing. On October 2022, in a brilliant stroke, the US government ordered all Americans working on China's semiconductor industry to immediately stop or face losing their US citizenship. Overnight, all American executives and engineers left China and got on the first plane back to America. Who can blame them for not wanting to be Chinese? Even Chinese don't want to be Chinese. But why stop at just the microchip field? Every American citizen working with or for any Chinese establishment must be made to face heavy sanctions that include forfeiting their American citizenship. Working for China or anything beneficial to China at this sort of time is working for the enemy. And anyone who chooses the enemy over his own country must be made to lose the benefits and freedoms that one gets for being American. Another way to block all potential Chinese loopholes in our country will be to stop all Chinese nationals from studying in the US. Each year, at least 200,000 Chinese students make their way to American universities to earn degrees in medicine, engineering, and technology. In the last decade, many of the Chinese spies caught in America have been Chinese students at American universities. In essence, America is educating Chinese spies and equipping them with the knowledge they need to destroy us in a future war. Also, did you know that there are millions of Chinese working in different sectors of the American economy, such as the military, security, technology, and even intelligence? Some of these people hold top positions in sensitive industries. It's time to put a stop to that as well. If we want to leave no stone unturned in shooting down this Chinese threat, we must closely monitor every one of these workers. Any ethnic Chinese worker who pledges his loyalty to China over America by spying against us will immediately be fired, jailed, and have all his assets seized for being an enemy of the American people. It shouldn't end there. Every ethnic Chinese person living in America must be placed under close watch so that any suspicious activities can be identified at the earliest stage. Again, the Chinese government is actively recruiting spies from among civilians. When they can't find willing spies, they force Chinese people living here to spy for them. That's why every Chinese living in America must be watched for any signs of espionage, fentanyl, drug sale, or military involvement. The icing on the cake must be beating China at its own game. We must promote the use of VPNs, Radio Free Asia, and other news platforms to spread accurate information to the Chinese and let them be aware of the grave dangers their government is setting up for them. Once they know about how abusive and corrupt their government is, they can start to fight back against this evil tyranny. We must stress to them the fact that their government's crimes against other countries will mean the Chinese people will be put in harm's way as these countries will retaliate. Provoking America or any of our allies will surely cause tremendous suffering against China and the Chinese people. We will let the Chinese people see how dangerous their leaders are and how they are being used as cheap pawns in this geopolitical power game. This will lead to the Chinese people putting pressure on their government to end any and all hostile plans for war and rejoin the civilized world. Now that you know what China has been planning under everyone's noses, pay attention to the things you can do to stop this evil plan. 1. Put pressure on your elected officials to carry out all the 4 steps we talked about earlier in this video. 2. Immediately cut all subscriptions to Chinese products and services to stop their World War III ambitions. 3. Start using more Made in America products and encourage your family, friends, and everyone you know to do the same. 4. Report any strange or suspicious activities you notice to the police or our intelligence agencies such as the FBI and Department of Homeland Security. Now that you know what active role you can play in upholding freedom and peace, it's time to rise up and ensure that you and everyone around you play your parts. The simple, easy steps I have outlined here do not involve violence or war. This isn't about politics or ideology. It's a matter of safety and life or death. We must all stand up and ensure that the world doesn't return to the dark old days of large-scale military actions and cold-blooded murder across international lines. Together, we can make a difference and save the lives of millions from a dangerous enemy. Let's make it happen. Start winning!